Hello, everybody. This is a recording of Adrenal Fatigue. We had some technical difficulties yesterday, so I wanted to record it for you guys so that you have this important information. So I am Tiffany Roberts with Back to Nature Lifestyle Medicine, and today we're going to talk about adrenal fatigue. Let's see. So the term adrenal fatigue was formulated in 1998 by a naturopathic doctor, James Wilson. This syndrome was explained as a collection of related symptoms caused by insufficient adrenal gland function. In other words, when the adrenal glands operate inadequately, complications arise and adrenal fatigue syndrome can develop. Usually the onset of adrenal fatigue is attributed to prolonged stress and chronic infections due to hormonal changes, immune response, and metabolic changes. Those suffering may not present any physical signs of illness, but will still generally feel fatigued, have trouble cognitively, and experience strong food cravings, such as particularly salty things. Sleep does not solve the exhaustion, so it is common to see an increase in the intake of coffee, sugar, and other stimulants to sustain energy throughout the day. Unfortunately, this is counterproductive for your adrenal fatigue. We'll go over more detail on how these habits affect this complicated phenomenon throughout this presentation. But first, what do the adrenals do? The adrenal glands are two glands located above the kidneys and are made of two different parts. Both are responsible for hormone production, but differ greatly. The adrenal cortex produces hormones such as cortisol and aldosterone that are essential for life. We have to have that. Cortisol works to regulate our metabolism, immunity, and stress response, while aldosterone helps control blood pressure and proper cardiovascular function. The adrenal medulla produces non-essential hormones, ones that are not vital for our life, meaning we can survive without having it. This does not mean that this component of the adrenals is not important. In fact, the adrenal medulla is incredibly valuable for dealing with physical and emotional stress and contributes to our fight or flight response of our parasympathetic nervous system. The most notable chemical messengers produced in this part of the adrenal glands is adrenaline. The adrenal glands also produce sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, as well as various neurotransmitters such as dopamine. When the proper production of these hormones are disrupted, adrenal fatigue can develop. Because of the multitude of responsibilities that these little glands have, adrenal fatigue can manifest very differently depending on the individual. Some signs of adrenal insufficiency and fatigue include persistence and non-specific fatigue. You're not sure why you're fatigued. Struggling waking up in the morning, imbalanced energies throughout the day, difficulty handling stress, food cravings, like I said, particularly salt, difficulty with a weakened immune system, unexplained body aches and joint pain, depression and anxiety, dark circles under your eyes, impaired recovery after physical activity, low blood pressure, poor circulation and numbness, lightheadedness and dizziness, weight gain and fluid retention, and decreased libido. So how many of you suffer from these symptoms or know someone that does? I'm sure we probably know someone that does. Contrary to popular belief, stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline are a good thing. And when released appropriately, they provide mental clarity, physical strength, and overall brain and muscle efficiency that can be seen as superhuman. Have you ever heard of the term adrenaline rush? Well, this term refers to your body appropriately responding to stress by activating its fight or flight mechanism. It can be used to propel you out of danger, help someone in pressing situation, or conquer a fearful situation. However, when our body unloads the adrenaline when we are not in a tasking situation, such as we're just sitting at a desk working on our computer, then our body is not using this stress hormone correctly. On the other hand, chronic stress suppresses adrenal function as the adrenal glands become unable to continue producing the cortisol needed to recover from stress. Stress can be caused by a number of things, such as unresolved biomedical dysfunctions, such as infections or hormonal imbalances, nutrition, poor diet, lack of sleep, too many stimulants, such as caffeine, work-life imbalance, overtraining physically, and emotional trauma. The body's response to stress includes a surge of cortisol, a boost of energy, an increase in blood sugar, lagged immune function, and the breakdown of stored protein and carbohydrates. And as you can tell, this is not ideal when we're not in immediate damage, as it leaves us sustainable to complications like insulin resistance, decreased immunity, muscle wasting, and even thyroid complications. The rise and inevitable drop of stress hormones impacts the thyroid by slowing the thyroid production and the conversion of the thyroid hormones to their active and usual forms. If the thyroid does not operate properly, many of the common symptoms of adrenal fatigue are present, such as fatigue, depression, weight gain, muscle aches, brain fog, low libido. Unfortunately, due to the similarities in the symptoms of both hypothyroidism and adrenal fatigue, the two conditions can be easily confused. These glands are seen to work together due to their collective roles in supplying essential hormones throughout their body. In fact, it is not uncommon for those suffering with thyroid dysfunction to also have weakened adrenals. The thyroid deficiency is incredibly common and goes undetected by many of these standard thyroid tests. In fact, approximately 80% are missed or undetected. Most endocrinologists examine a patient solely on their TSH levels, but ignore other important markers of imbalance. This misunderstanding leads to skewed lab results and the failure of diagnosis accurately. Comprehensive thyroid testing includes measurements of the following hormones, not just your TSH. You have to have your free T4, your free T3, reverse T3, your sex hormone binding globulin, leptin, tissue levels, and your basal metabolic rate. Without looking at all these factors in the thyroid function, the prescribed treatment may be unfit for the patient. For example, if a patient is advised to take a synthetic hormone for hypothyroid and are still experiencing fatigue, they may want to be retested and include their adrenal function. In today's conventional medical model, there is no formal adrenal fatigue testing. This is where functional medicine becomes crucial for accurate and comprehensive diagnosis. In short, functional medicine is a systems-oriented approach that employs a personalized medicine approach to identify, understand, and treat the underlying cause of a disease. Therefore, functional medicine practitioners take the signs of adrenal fatigue very seriously, being that this disorder can be both a cause and a result from an imbalance within the body. Some of the many signs practitioners will look for include your fatigue, your thyroid imbalances, unexplained weight changes, low blood pressure, unstable blood sugar, your hair loss, blurred vision, infertility. The most common diagnostic tool for adrenal testing is a cortisol saliva test. However, there are plenty of other ways to test your adrenals, such as cortisol testing, and you can do that through saliva, blood, or urine. And again, I like the saliva because it's a little bit more accurate. Your ACTH challenge testing, comprehensive thyroid testing, cortisol and DHEA ratio, your 17-HP to cortisol ratio, neurotransmitter testing, postural blood pressure testing, and iris contraction testing. To obtain an accurate diagnosis, it is important to have information from various tests, and sometimes conducted multiple times, and to make this tracking, of all your symptoms a priority. So adrenal fatigue progresses through 4 different stages of advancement. Symptoms include in frequency and severity throughout these stages. And the phases of adrenal fatigue are, stage 1, the alarm reaction. Stage 2, resistance response. Stage 3 is adrenal exhaustion. And stage 4 is adrenal failure. So we will discuss this in a little bit more detail here. So the first stage, the adrenal fatigue, is often called the alarm reaction or the fight or flight response, and it is characterized by the high cortisol levels. This stage describes a body's immediate reaction to a stressor. The body initiates an anti-stress response to overpower the stressor and begin the production and release of cortisol. At this time, there is very little physical or physiological dysfunction noticed. Fatigue is considered mild and may not sustain throughout the entire day. Sleep patterns are disturbed, and an uptake in caffeine, sugar, and carbohydrates are usually present. And this stage is often characterized with the feeling of being wired, but tired. So you feel like you have energy, but you're really, really tired. In fact, most people enter this stage of adrenal fatigue many times in their lifetime, and quite honestly, most of Americans are in this stage right now. And if you were to get lab testing during this stage, an elevation of adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol, DHEA, and insulin would be present. In stage 2, the resistance response is where the adrenals begin to lose their ability to keep up with the body's demand of cortisol. During this stage, fatigue becomes more noticeable and extends beyond the morning or early afternoon and goes on into the evening. The body will need more rest than usual to recover and will very rarely feel refreshed from sleeping. Infections and insomnia, anxiety, and irritability also become more common. And this is where people begin to recognize their symptoms and seek medical attention. There are substantial drops in important hormones such as DHEA and testosterone in exchange for a continual cortisol production. And this phase can last a couple months to several years, depending on how bad. As the adrenal glands are becoming continually less effective, the body's ever-increasing need for adrenal hormones remains unchanged while the stress is still present. Stage 3 is where the body recognizes the decline in cortisol output and focuses on the conserving of energy for survival. To do this, the body begins to slow down and break down existing muscle tissue for energy. Chronic fatigue is common, as well as reduced exercise intolerance, longer recovery time, brain fog, insomnia, depression, decreased infections, weight gain, lack of sex drive, less productive during the day, increased need for rest. And if not tested, the body further loses homeostasis or the ability to maintain stable and function throughout any changes that come across. Luckily, it is uncommon for people to progress beyond this burnt out stage and go into the 4th stage, which is adrenal fatigue progression. At this point, much of the body's stress hormones, sex hormones, neurotransmitters are very low, representing the crash after suffering from any kind of stress for a long period of time. So stage 4, and as I mentioned, it is uncommon to enter the stage of adrenal failure, but it is possible and it's dangerous and it's important to recognize. Eventually, the adrenals become completely exhausted. This severe advancement of adrenal fatigue can manifest very similarly to the clinical adrenal insufficiency disease known as Addison's disease. Symptoms include sudden pain in the lower back, legs, and abdomen, digestive distress such as vomiting or diarrhea, severe dehydration, low blood pressure, loss of consciousness, and high risk of cardiovascular collapse. Although these symptoms are much more obvious, there is still a chance of misdiagnosis, especially in today's world. It is incredibly important to recognize the signs and see a trusted physician. And once adrenal fatigue enters this stage, the chance of becoming fatal is very serious and relevant. It is a relevant concern. Fortunately, there are plenty of ways to reverse adrenal fatigue, and some of these include dietary changes, adrenal supporting supplementation, reduced adrenal stress, minimize exercise and increase your rest, a regular sleep schedule, detoxification, adequate hydration, heal existing infections. If you have underlying infections, then you can't get anything else under control, and practice meditation. So a diet full of processed grains, vegetable oils, and sugars, much like the standard American diet, is known to stress the adrenals. Conversely, the nutrient-rich diet, including healthy fats and fibers, helps support adrenal health and can aid in adrenal fatigue recovery. In particular, these foods are especially impactful in the fight against adrenal fatigue, and they include healthy fats, such as coconut oil, coconut milk, avocados, olives, olive oil, nuts. Now, if you're a viral person, we need to check how you're reacting to nuts, because that can be, and that can cause underlying viruses to come up and cause problems. So we need to talk about that. Seeds, grass-fed butter, fatty fish, and grass-fed meats. And these are incredible tools in stabilizing your blood sugar. Vegetables to provide a variety of nutrients to nourish the whole body, including the adrenals. Fermented foods for their probiotics, and protein specifically in the morning. It is recommended to consume approximately 40 grams of protein in the morning to provide support to the adrenals throughout the day. Exclude caffeine. Don't drink your coffee, don't drink your teas unless it is from the organo company, because the mushroom in there is counteractive on the caffeine and actually helps heal your body through your organs as well. So if you truly think that you have an adrenal problem, stop drinking all your coffee and tea and your caffeines throughout the day and switch to organo products. Sugar and sweeteners, starchy carbohydrates, and processed foods, particularly lunch meats or processed meats, and stay away from hydrogenated oils. The increased levels of cortisol that result from the early stage of adrenal fatigue also raises our blood sugar very quickly. This upsets our body's balancing act, resulting in a dump of insulin. This insulin orders our cells to take in as much sugar as possible to regain safe blood glucose levels. Insulin also signals our bodies to store extra glucose for later use. However, if our diet continues to provide more sugar than our body can ever use, weight gain, inflammation, and health complications can develop. It is important to address blood sugar stability when healing your adrenal fatigue due to the pivotal role in energy production. So vitamins are necessary for most of the body's natural processes, and minerals are essential for hormone production and utilization. A few of the most important vitamins and minerals to supplement include sodium. So natural salt, like Celtic sea salt, is needed for adrenal recovery. Aldosterone is a hormone responsible for salt regulation and is reduced by adrenal fatigue. Vitamin C, and I am not talking about ascorbic acid. Let me make that clear. You go to, some health store, you go to Whole Foods or whatever, and it has vitamin C on there from ascorbic acid. That is not vitamin C. Okay, that's just one single part of the whole vitamin C. You need whole food vitamin C. And if you are a patient of ours, you have access to the purest whole food vitamin C available. Okay. Not only is it a powerful antioxidant that works to protect the body against free radicals, vitamin C is also an essential building block for adrenal gland recovery. B vitamins such as B5, B6, and B12 are specifically involved in cell metabolism, energy production, and fatigue reduction. Vitamin D. This vitamin is especially important for adrenal fatigue as it increases the enzymes needed for the production of adrenal hormones. When the body is in a stress state, the body must choose between replenishing the loss of vitamin D or producing cortisol. Cortisol is chosen for survival, furthering adrenal fatigue that the cycle continues. Magnesium. Magnesium levels are maintained by magnesium, and deficiency results in fatigue, depression, and many other adrenal fatigue symptoms. Probiotics. Probiotics improve digestion, immunity, and aids in vitamin absorption and hormone production. And a good way to start with this is the spore capsules from Organo. And this will help reduce your inflammation and get your body in a state where you can actually absorb it. It is most important to follow a professional's guideline specific for you for your proper supplementation due to deficiencies, severity, and the stage of adrenal fatigue. This means there's no cookie cutter approach to this, and there never should be. There never should be a cookie cutter approach to everyone because you got there in a different way. Okay, so finding a functional medicine practitioner that will find out the causes that caused your adrenal fatigue is very, very important. So adrenal fatigue and sleep dysfunctions are closely related due to the body's natural schedule of cortisol secretion. Cortisol levels naturally rise and fall throughout the entire day. Adrenaline and cortisol both increase alertness and affect sleep schedule in a number of different ways. You may experience trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or both. The best recommendations, other than, stress relief, for regaining a proper sleep routine include creating a sleep cycle for going to sleep and waking. And, Dr. Roberts always says, go to sleep before 10 o'clock at night because this is very crucial for your healing process. Resting when you feel tired as much as you can. Aiming to sleep between 8 to 10 hours a day. Avoid staying up too late or being stimulated close to bedtime. And a great practice of ours is that we drink the Organo green tea before bedtime because the Ganoderma in it is very, very relaxing and helps us fall asleep quickly and kind of just wraps you up in a little cocoon. So the obvious problem around adrenal fatigue is stress. So it's no surprise that stress relief is one of the most important factors in an optimal recovery. Some recommendations to manage your stress include using essential oils, practice mindful meditation, begin a yoga practice, breathe deeply, spend time with people that you care about, journal, have a gratitude journal, listen to enjoyable music, and relax with a good book. Drink some Organo tea, go outdoors, or get a massage. So these are great ways to reduce your stress levels. So thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully this was helpful for people out there. If you do have questions about maybe a possible adrenal fatigue issue, please reach out to our office at 913-901-0096, or you can check out our website at functionalmedicinekc.com. And let's book a discovery session so maybe we can see if our clinic would be the right clinic to help you out with your adrenal fatigue. Thanks so much for joining me today.